Hello, everybody. My name is Slit, and today we're going to be doing a lovely little reaction video to Foundry. Now, this is someone who I just subscribed to on this account. I've been subscribed on my other account beforehand, but now that we're beginning, let's get into this. Oh yeah, this is a video on anti-villains, or what is an anti-villain is the name of the title, but let's begin.
Right? The dark, gritty version of the hero? The one who doesn't mind kicking the dog or
Yeah,
stealing candy from a baby if it ultimately gets them what they want? When you think about it,
yeah,
they really look like bad guys. It's just
mm-hmm,
that what they want happens to be a good thing, which, from an audience perspective, makes them insanely complex to think about. We even did a whole video about it, just
yeah, I've seen the anti-heroes one.
trying to untangle the line between where anti-hero and villain is. But
Mm-hmm,
there's
mm-hmm.
another side to this too, one that I rarely see explored. What would you call the opposite of that? The bright, soft version of the villain? The one who doesn't
Ooh.
mind saving the cat or helping an old lady across the street? What happens when, for all intents and purposes, a character seems like a good guy, but they still want to blow up the city? That, my friends, is what we call.
Okay, I'm laughing not because I find it funny that they're blowing up a building. I'm finding it funny from the perspective of this is what your fucking morality is. And I understand this is a level of morality and I like it a lot. I'm also rambling because I'm getting up right now to grab a fucking blanket. Because, yes, blanket skirt is needed. Yeah. But give me just a second and I'll sit the fuck back down in my chair. There we go, there we go, there we go. Lovely, I'm back in my chair. Was the cat a detonator? Yes, yes, it was actually. It seems so.
An anti-villain. And if you thought anti-heroes were complex, I promise you, you haven't seen anything yet.
Here comes the logical fuckery. Also, another thing, I have this subscribed on my other account, but I haven't watched this in so long. Like, the fucking quality of their animation is so nice. I think I remember watching the world building video when it came out. I hate everything. Why do they play me ads? Come on, let me get the fuck through here.
It can be pretty hard to find opportunities to do really experimental stuff as a content creator. Usually that kind of thing is pretty risky and can end up costing a lot of money. Nevertheless,
Fair.
we have managed to do some pretty weird stuff.
Mm-hmm,
Like
mm-hmm.
this video about a fantasy setting that basically has gigantic geographic genitalia.
What? Are you saying that you gave the planet a dick? And or vagina or anything else. You know what? I was gonna try to say that's too weird, but then I remembered that the Greek gods are a thing and they're named after planets, and like I think it's the Roman or is it Spartan? I don't know. Anyways, I'm now just imagining the name Jupiter wasn't a joke.
Or this video about crafting living beings with magic. But the
Yeah.
coolest thing we've ever done, hands down, our 6-part original series, Worldsmiths, which explores some of the most
Yes.
unique fiction by some of the most unique authors. Junji Ito's weirdly pleasant psychological world of horror, Neil Gaiman's darkly honest approach to writing children's stories, and a bunch of others. We put
Yeah.
so much effort into that series, and we are just so proud of it. And the reason we got to do all of that? This
Mm-hmm.
stuff that would just be a bit too risky to try here on YouTube. Our streaming platform, Nebula.
They have a streaming platform? Oh shit.
We literally get paid to do experiments over there. So if you want to see us try more weird and interesting stuff, visit go.nebula.tv/tailfoundry and sign up for just $2.50.
Normally I don't usually give that many fucks about actually like having their P ad placements. But when they're plugging themselves, I'm gonna make sure I put this. Gotta see the one
A
in the
month.
description.
There are a
So people are
ton
gonna
of
have to
other
check it.
creators
See you,
experimenting over there
locals.
too, so once you're done with our stuff, you'll have plenty left to explore. But definitely look at our stuff first. Again,
Oh, they
visit
killed the dog.
go.nebula.tv/talefoundry and go watch our original series, Worldsmiths. Now,
Hmm.
back to the video. The first thing we want to do is draw some boundaries for what a villain even is.
Yeah.
First of all, the villain is not the antagonist.
Yes.
I mean, it usually is, but it doesn't have to be. Where an antagonist is just a villain that gets in the way, a villain is, importantly, a bad guy. They aren't just an obstacle or a jerk. The thing that they want is actually morally
Morally
wrong.
wrong.
So that kid who the protagonist is competing with in the baseball playoffs, antagonist, not villain.
Yeah.
On the other hand, criminal mastermind who wants to take over the world, villain, of
And then you get Doctor Doom, and he's kind of doing it for a good reason, but he's still trying to take over the fucking world.
course. But these days, very few villains are just that. The rise of the antihero is occurring in concert with the rise of the anti-villain. In fact, some of the only places you really see these pure evil villains these days are in high fantasy, where they're often some kind of mysterious force of darkness, or in works made for children that need a more generic, mustache-twirling baddie. Outside of that, they're most often found in comedies, where they're lampooned for the utter unrealisticness of having no positive traits whatsoever. At one
Yeah.
point in the recent movie Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which is fantastic by the way,
Oh
please
yeah,
watch
fuck
it,
yes.
the
This is a
villain
great
Big
movie.
Jack Horner gets his hand on a magical talking bug that introduces itself as his conscience. A fun little parody of Jiminy Cricket from Disney's adaptation of Pinocchio. Throughout the movie, the little bug makes increasingly desperate attempts to find some shred of goodness in the irredeemable Jack, until eventually he is forced to
Oh
admit
my
that no
god.
such thing exists. Jack is just a genuinely bad person. It's honestly so much fun to watch. If the movie didn't take advantage of Jack's moral bankruptcy to make a lot of really great, irreverent jokes, this character would probably just be incredibly boring.
Yeah,
Evil
no.
all by
Jack
itself
Horner
is just
is just straight up showing you, I am someone like. I feel like there's three things in Puss in Boots. Obviously, death is man versus nature. Goldie is man versus, well, I guess, I don't know. Would it be self? Yeah, I guess it's versus yourself because most of their problems are driven by themselves. And then man versus man would be Jack because he's just so awful fucking man. Okay.
one note. It can be hard to make compelling. Without some way to add intrigue, like a good sense of humor, these characters just feel like cardboard cutouts painted the color evil.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, it's not an either-or situation. You can have a villain that is just a villain and also give them some fun depth of character.
Yeah.
You can even make the audience like them. There's a throwaway character in the show Rick and Morty named Crumbopulous Michael who is
What?
impossible not to like.
For reference, I've only seen like Rick and Morty shit on occasion if I'm ever over at someone's place. Hello, Glass Game.
Even though he's an alien assassin.
Nice to meet you, Morty. Listen, if you ever need anybody murdered, please give me a call.
You're
I'm very
giving him a
discreet. I
card?
have no code of ethics. I will kill anyone, anywhere. Children, animals, old people, doesn't matter. I just love killing.
He only has a couple of minutes of screen time in the entire series, but he's still an audience favorite.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
But just because a villain is likable or funny doesn't make them
It's their goofy ass expression. The amount of joy that they bring to people. Of course, the evil like this.
not a villain. Just as good doesn't necessarily mean nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice doesn't necessarily mean good. Perhaps the most common type of likable villain is what TVTropes.org calls the wooby villain. The idea is that if you attach enough tragic
Here you
history
go,
to a
killing it.
character,
Yep.
it will soften all their sharp edges and make them feel less like a villain. And fair enough, I guess that does work. But it doesn't change the fact that they're a villain. Yes, it's tragic that your family was murdered by penguins.
Fucking murdered by penguins? I was gonna say that at least like that seems pretty high fetched, but then I remembered penguins have like, don't they have like those mouths that are like filled with teeth? or spikes or where the fuck, like their tongues are just fucked up. Like penguins have horrific inner like shit inside. So if you really make a mutated penguin and you give that as the jaw, nah, I'm good. I'm good. You can go ahead and have a fucking Afro Samurai slash Berserk fucking beef against that penguin. Just make sure you film it and then add some cool background music. Fuck, nope, wrong button. This one.
No, that doesn't mean your penguin genocide revenge plot is okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Genocide just doesn't make sense for
antagonists,
revenge.
comedically dark villains, villains with depth, villains
That's supposed to be Hannibal.
we like, villains we feel sorry for.
Obviously, this is
These
Zuko,
are
but yeah.
all fun approaches to giving our villains a bit of depth, but they aren't anti-villains. At the start of the
Yeah.
video, I gave a pretty basic description of anti-heroes and anti-villains. The anti-hero might be dark and gritty, they might do bad things, but they ultimately want something good, and
Yeah.
strive to get it, which makes them heroes. On the other hand, although they may be pleasant, may even do good things, anti-villains ultimately want something bad, which makes them
Lovely.
villains. Really, what it comes down to is goals. The methods and motivations behind those goals can change, but at the end of the day, it's the net result of what the character does or tries to do which decides their morality. Thanos from the Marvel Cinematic Universe
A
is
fucking
actually a
villain.
really great example of this. His ultimate motivation is to bring balance to a cosmos that he sees as overpopulated. He wants to save it. His method for pursuing this motivation is ruthlessly tearing apart every world he comes to in search of the tools that will enable him to do the work. And his goal? His goal, in plain terms, is to murder half of all living beings in the universe
Jesus.
at the same time. So, he may be motivated by a good ideal,
Resource
but his
crisis.
ultimate goal is
You're
evil.
just killing people.
He's a villain.
Also, let's just be honest here. Every way I've seen it explained to me, because I don't have the time to go out there and just look for myself, he doesn't make sense. Like, let's just be honest. Thanos doesn't make sense for his entire plan. It just seems stupid.
Despite a weirdly altruistic core ethos, this is what an anti-villain looks like. Although it's also probably like the most vanilla version you can possibly find. Big purple evil man wants to murder half of all the people, but, you know, it might help the ecosystem. Not a huge moral quandary there. Like I said earlier,
he kills all life, not just sentient life. Which means that if everything gets halved, a lot of shit happens. And then you gotta remember all the fucking buses, planes, and everything else that have drivers that just wrecked and all the poor people who died. He killed more than half of the people. Also, if you killed all these parents, who the fuck's taking care of these kids? There's probably multiple children who just starved to death. Or you cut out half of the fucking population. How many of those people were making medicine and helping others? Sure, there was probably a few murderers who got caught out, maybe half of them. But now there's half the people for the rest of the murderers to still kill. You've made us worse. It's a lot easier to destroy than it is to create. You've half the amount of people who can create. How many babies in the womb got dusted? MTF? I will not get into that discussion because that will get into a very political discussion very quickly.
this gets far more complex.
And even if that question was imposed, and let's hope it never happens, you also have to remember those kids came back. Imagine all of a sudden being fucking, hey, I guess it's not coming here, and then all of a sudden a child comes back 7 years later.
If a villain is a character with goals that we understand to be bad, then there are two types of anti-villains. One with an evil goal but good motives, and another with an evil goal but good methods. It'd certainly be easier if they had names, wouldn't it? Luckily, we have tvtropes.org to help us. That is, when we aren't getting hopelessly lost in article browsing. That site is so addictive. The noble anti-villain is basically just a villain with some kind of code of ethics or code of honor that they follow.
I like this one.
For them, the end does not always justify the means.
I still use overly sarcastic productions explanation, aka the magnificent bastard. I believe this is a very good explanation of what the fuck we're talking about here.
Their goal may be evil, but their methods are more scrupulous, more honorable than those of other villains. This is sometimes as simple as an honor among thieves dynamic. Think of the Thieves Guild in the Elder Scrolls games, which has a strict no-killing policy. Useful? Absolutely. These rules serve a valuable role in helping these villains do what they do, but I think the villains who do this for their own personal reasons fit that noble title a little bit better.
Yeah.
In the 1987 movie Predator, an alien game hunter comes to Earth in search
Oh
of
my
royal
god,
prey.
I love this.
The movie follows
It also
a band
allows
of
you to just
jacked
sit the fuck
testosterone.
down. Like, I'm just gonna say this now. Anyone here who goes, I'm gonna fight the Predator, and you think you're winning, don't. Just don't. They come in there with weapons armed, and they are ready to fuck you up. And they have training since the moment they come out the womb. Just, like, don't fucking fight them. Put your weapons down, get on the ground, and be a little bitch. It may hurt your pride a little bit, but shit, you'll live.
Testosterone-fueled Green Berets on a mission that takes them deep into the Vietnamese wilderness. It doesn't take long before the alien identifies them as a good target and stealthily begins to pick them off one by one. But eventually, near the movie's climax, one of the veterans proves to be a match for him. And when challenged to combat, the alien meets the man, warrior to warrior, discarding its futuristic weapons and armor. A ruthless killer, yes, but one with a code of honor. It will only fight a worthy adversary. But that's still kind of rulesy, right?
Yeah.
I would consider it anti-villain behavior, sure, but just barely. I think I like it a bit more when a character who we take to be a ruthless villain encounters an ethical boundary that they just don't have the heart to cross. In Disney's Treasure Planet, the notorious pirate Long John Silver gives up his chance to abscond with a boatload of treasure in order to save Jim Hawkins, the teenage cabin boy he had bonded with earlier in the movie. Although he had betrayed Jim and held him hostage only a few minutes earlier, apparently, for him, no amount of treasure is worth Jim's life.
That is actually a thing. I've seen this with a lot of like characters who are based on just like thievery. They'll rob a lot of people. They don't want to kill anybody though, which is a fair assessment. Hey, I took all your fucking valuables. I didn't take your life. You have something to keep. Sorry, I'm just sipping on that Gator.
This is always a meaningful revelation for us as an audience, seeing this new dimension of our villain. Sometimes it even signals that they're heading for a redemption arc, and at some point will either join the good guys, or make some heroic self-sacrifice that's supposed to absolve them of their evil deeds.
No, you don't get to wash away your sins. You may walk around with them. You may lift up other people as long as you bear the burden of what you've done. But you do not get to wash away what you've already done.
So, that's what happens when you have a character with a villainous goal, but a not-so-villainous method for achieving it. But what does it look like when both the method and the goal are bad, but the motivation is good? That's the territory of the other anti-villain type. The well-intentioned extremist. Thanos technically fits this role, but I think there's another villain who demonstrates it in a far more nuanced fashion. In the first season of the show, The Legend of Korra, we're introduced to the Big Bad, an enigmatic, powerful, mask-wearing villain called Amon, who's threatening to destroy the status quo. And he kind of has a point. See, the world they live in has two kinds of people in it. Benders and non-benders. People who can magically manipulate the elements of earth, wind, fire, and water, and people who can't. As you can imagine, benders have a bit of an inherent edge here. Amon is the leader of the Equalists, a political faction seeking to make benders and non-benders equal. He wants everyone to feel safe from each other and have the same opportunities. A noble cause, right? But like Thanos, that's
he does
just
not give
his
two
motive.
fucks. He
His
just wants
actual
control.
goal is to forcibly strip every single bender of their powers. And if that goal weren't bad enough by itself, his method of achieving it is equally villainous. Kidnapping people, terrorizing the population, and arming his own dangerous paramilitary force. And with that context, he becomes a pretty clear villain, right? He wants something bad.
Hi, Afro.
He's willing to do bad things
We have a lot of videos.
But his idealistic and virtuous motivation technically makes him an anti-villain. And we can see how delicate that balance is if we tweak things just a little. What
Mm-hmm.
if he wanted something good? Like if instead of forcibly stripping benders of their powers, what if his goal was to pass laws to protect non-benders and give them equal
Then you
rights?
just be a fucking
And what
hero.
if he used the same dark methods to achieve that goal?
Oh.
Kidnapping and terrorism. Well, all of a sudden, he actually becomes an anti-hero, right?
No.
This brings me
You're
to
still a
another
fucking
interesting
monster.
point. The domains of anti-hero and anti-villain are so close that sometimes it just seems to be a simple matter of perspective. Someone you took to be an anti-hero can very much appear to be an anti-villain if you just change the angle from which you're looking at them. In Stranger Things Season 4, the character Jason is out for revenge against Eddie Munson, the
I've never
sadist
seen
who
Stranger Things
ritualistically
more than
murdered
one
his
episode.
girlfriend Chrissy. Except we, as the audience, know that Chrissy was actually murdered by an interdimensional monster. That's not as believable as the satanic sacrifice excuse, though, so good luck trying to convince him of that. It's easy to see Jason as an anti-villain in this scenario, but what if we thought the same thing that he did? What if we really did believe Eddie was responsible for the murder? Wouldn't that make Jason an anti-hero?
Yeah.
One piece of information changes the narrative completely. Jason
There's a
probably
reason why a
wouldn't
lot
be
of
doing
characters
any of
get
this
like
if he knew the
flipped whenever
truth.
you realize
So
I'm
can
not the
he
one who
really
killed
be
your
considered
dad.
a bad guy?
I
He's an
didn't do
anti-villain
it.
purely
Someone
because of
else
what
did.
we know about the situation,
But you've already
not
stabbed me through the
actually
chest,
anything he's done.
so I may die.
This is an issue you'll run into all the time with these roles. Severus Snape's goals and motivations are a mystery throughout most of the Harry Potter series, but unless you've been in a coma since 2005, you probably know that he kills Dumbledore, and unless you've been in a coma since 2007, you probably know that he
I
was a
didn't
good guy the whole
know
time. But what if you
anything
were in
about
that
this
coma?
guy.
If you only had access to the first 6 books, you would almost definitely still classify him as an anti-villain. Similarly, what if the scene in book 7
Yeah, no,
where
I've
Harry
only
discovers
seen,
the
I haven't
truth
seen
about
or
Snape
read Harry Potter really.
hadn't happened? Nothing about Snape himself would have changed, but Harry's opinion of him would have been drastically different. And
Last time I
as
saw
we
something on Harry
experience the
Potter
book
was a
through Harry's
movie
eyes,
on fucking
so would
cable.
ours. So, we have, hopefully, a pretty good definition for what an anti-villain is here, which is great, but our goal is not necessarily to lock down definitions for these things. It's to find new lenses through which we can look at the fiction we love.
Mm-hmm.
These labels are less useful as rigid categories than they are as lenses. There's a reason people love to argue about their favorite villain's morality. Could Kylo Ren ever have been redeemed? When does Walter White make the switch from hapless antihero into full-on villain? Is Tyler Durden a demon that tried to drag the hero under? Or the
Nah.
necessary shadow he had to face for growth? When you're having these conversations, you're not really discussing the morality of fictional characters. You're discussing your own morality. And these words, hero, anti-hero, villain, anti-villain, are just the language you use to do it. The complexity here is wonderful, and we honestly don't actually want to undo all of it. Hopefully this definition can help you to explore it. Speaking of complexity, this video is just a taste of all the interesting stuff we want to do with video creation. There are so many boundaries we haven't pushed yet that we are just aching to. Unfortunately, experiments can be pretty costly. Unlike regular content,
Don't worry.
you really have no
I
idea
will put
how
the link in the
something
description for
experimental is
this
going to
video.
perform, and doing something new
Of
with
the
content
other
creation
place.
almost always forces you to dig a little deeper into your wallet.
Anyways, we're gonna like this video.
Nevertheless, we have
I've
managed
already
to do some
subscribed. I
pretty
need y'all to
weird
do
stuff
so
over
as
the
well.
last few
The video
years.
link will be in the
Like
description.
this video about
The
a
channel will
foxy
be in the
snake that
description.
basically has gigantic
Honestly, just
geographic
have a
genitalia,
lovely day.
or this video about crafting living beings with magic.
Wait, is
But
this
the coolest
still
thing we've
going?
ever done, hands down, our 6-part original series, so proud of it. A video over there, a creator you love is getting paid, and far more than they would ever get paid on YouTube. For a lot of us over there, it's become the single best way to fund our more experimental, ambitious content, like our original series, Worldsmiths. And here's the really fun part, you can get Nebula for cheaper than almost our Nebula Tail Foundry, $30. How they can afford to do this for us. Thanks for watching, and keep making stuff up. I'll see you.
Anyways, take yourself over to
next
Live
week.
Nebula.
Bye.
Get over there. Anyways, my name's been Delzarslit, and please, have a lovely fucking day, everybody. Goodbye.